And so one assumes that either the ANC is deeply ignorant, or they're deeply uncurious, or they are just nihilists.
Property rights and the rule of law are indispensable components of a modern democratic society. But here in South Africa, the ANC government is proposing to amend Section 25, which would enable expropriation without compensation. We sat down with Marian Tupy of humanprogress.org to explain why this would be a bad idea. Marian, you mentioned property rights and the rule of law. These seem to be elements that are the product of emergent order, but take a long time to build up, but are quite easy to destroy. And in South Africa, we're currently in deliberations in our parliament to amend the constitution to abrogate that property rights clause, and to basically allow for expropriation with nil compensation. Could you tell our viewers why property rights and the rule of law more broadly are so essential for human development?
I am aware of what is happening in South Africa. I have written about it before. It is a fundamental threat to prosperity. It is a fundamental threat to the stability of society. It is an expression of extraordinary ignorance about both economics but history as well. The EWC conversation in South Africa is all the more puzzling because South Africa neighbors a country which attempted EWC 20 years ago. The catastrophe that has unfolded in Zimbabwe was there for everybody to see. The country has experienced 90 sextillion% inflation. That's million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion. 90 sextillion% inflation. This is a country which experienced 90% unemployment, complete collapse of public utilities, of education, sanitation, an outbreak of cholera, which killed 8,000 people. And right now, Zimbabwe is unquestionably a failed state that is run for the benefit of a tiny group of ZANU-PF apparatchiks at the top. And everybody else is basically living in misery. And I'm deeply concerned that something like that may happen in South Africa. And frankly, it is beyond me why the ANC would willingly want to destroy their own country and make the lives of everybody in South Africa as bad as they are currently in Zimbabwe. I do not understand how that's possible, that this is even a real possibility that it will happen. The reason why rule of law and private property are so crucial to economic growth is because when it comes to private property, for example, you cannot borrow against a house or a piece of land that you do not have a title to. And if you cannot borrow against that piece of land or against that house, then obviously the economy is going to take a knock. Once titles are removed, the banking sector is bound to seize because suddenly they will develop massive holes in their portfolio. They thought they were sitting on top of massive amounts of collateral, but suddenly they realized those are worth nothing because the government took it all away. So your banking sector is bound to collapse. When your banking sector collapses, people will no longer be able to get loans. They will not be able to get access to currency, for example. Your economy will seize up. When your economy seizes up, you cannot export. If you cannot export, you cannot earn foreign currency, and therefore you cannot import. Fundamentally, why would any farmer in South Africa want to do any of the sowing and harvesting if they don't know if next year they are going to benefit from it? So that will also decimate or even destroy South African agriculture, and therefore the country will have no food. All of these things are well documented from other countries which have experimented with expropriation without compensation.
Enjoying this analysis? Click here to sign up for our 30-day free trial for more content from the CIA.
And so one assumes that either the ANC is deeply ignorant, or they're deeply uncurious, or they are just nihilists who think that by destroying the South African economy and make it work for a tiny sliver of the population, the ANC apparatchiks on top, that they are somehow going to perpetuate their power forever. At any rate, it's an idiotic policy. It can only end up in tears, and I'm deeply worried that that may be so.
Well, Marian, we share your concern here at the Center for Risk Analysis. Let's perhaps end off on a positive note. And many viewers of this conversation that we've had today would obviously marvel at the progress that has been made. What can individuals in societies around the world do to preserve progress, the progress that has been made, and to ensure that progress continues? And particularly individuals and their relationships to the political classes in which they find themselves governed. What advice would you like to end off on?
Buy gold. No, I'm just joking. Although I would advise people to start thinking of risks down the road. But speaking very seriously, people have to understand that there are no shortcuts to human progress. South Africa is not going to return back to economic growth by some sort of magic wand, by waving some sort of a magic wand. It is not going to become a prosperous society by expropriating part of its population. The number of wealthy people in South Africa are so tiny that if you take everything from them and you redistribute it amongst the poor masses, it may make a marginal difference for a year, but then you are going to end up with a ruined economy where everybody is going to starve. So people, the best I can advise people is please don't believe politicians, especially when those politicians are offering you an easy way out of poverty and out of misery. There are no easy ways out of poverty and misery. The way toward human progress is incremental steps forward and a lot of hard work, the kind of hard work that we saw in South Korea in the 1970s and the 80s, the kind of hard work that we saw from the Chinese in the 80s and the 90s and 2000s, the kind of hard work which changed Chile from an economic basket case into the richest country in Latin America in a generation. The kind of hard work, frankly, which saw Central and Eastern Europe become increasingly prosperous after the collapse of communism. There are no easy options here. There are only bad options in terms of how bad South Africa could get if people truly believe what politicians are telling them. And the South African people, of all people, should presumably by now realize that politicians are lying to them all the time. I know that Americans know that politicians are lying to us all the time. I know that because nobody trusts the government in the United States, and I think that less trust in politicians is always a good idea, always a good suggestion to any electorate, including South African and American one.
Thanks very much for watching this discussion with Marian Tupy of humanprogress.org. If you enjoyed this analysis, you might want to check out Marian's book. Please also leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Until next time, take care.